Hey guys, this is the AT Chat, and I just got back from seeing The Rise of Skywalker. So it's time for me to talk about it, tell you how I feel about it. I'm going to try not to go for too long and try not to spoil too much, but spoiler warning, I will be talking about things that I saw in the movie. And also, I will not be editing this really, other than just putting a trailer on repeat while I talk. This is just going to be me talking podcast style. So first things first, this was without a doubt my least favorite of the entire sequel trilogy, and that's wicked sad to me. It's unfortunate. It doesn't mean I hated it. I definitely am going to go see this again. I already have tickets for a showing on Saturday. It's definitely worth a rewatch, and it's definitely worth watching. It's a just good enough Star Wars film. That's the way I'd put it. This film is just good enough. I would say it isn't even as good as Rogue One. Doesn't mean I don't like it. It just didn't have a lot of things within the story itself keeping me wanting to go, wow, and stay in it and go, holy crap. There are visually some things at the end of the film that made me feel that way, especially the end of this film. The end of this film is pretty much a home run to me. In regards to the third acts of Rogue One and The Rise of Skywalker, both equally pretty excellent. But man, the intro to this film is a clunky mess. It is straight up an editing disaster. And I hate to dog on Star Wars. My channel is founded on positivity and finding good and bad. So without a doubt I'll be releasing videos, diving into character motivations, trying to deconstruct what I think was trying to be conveyed in this film and how it might fit into the overall thread and narrative here. But I gotta be quite frank, I do think it feels very disconnected to the overall theme of the previous two films. The first one was how the past comes back to haunt you. The echoes of the past, you could call it. The Last Jedi was about going beyond dogma and getting over your past trauma and getting over your limiting beliefs in a way and figuring out how to communicate with people. The Last Jedi was such a film. This quite literally felt like dessert. That's the best way to put it. I think I've seen some people say it like that. This is pure cosmetic Star Wars, this movie. JJ gets the look. He gets what it's supposed to feel like. He totally gets it. I just don't think he nailed it. What I do think, though, is that he just gave us a good Star Wars story. It feels like one of those, too. I have to say, The Rise of Skywalker feels like a Star Wars story, like a side story that happens to have this sequel trilogy characters in it. But yeah, and I do know a lot of people are maybe going to be disappointed in this film, and I do think a lot of people might even love this film. It seems to be pretty divided again, and I did not anticipate myself being on this side of the fence in particular, because I find it easy to be negative, I guess, or too easy just to go down the negative path. But man, I'm not lying. It's a movie that's it's a lot. JJ truly had to figure out how to tie up 8 other films into one, kind of. And what I think ultimately happened is he said, I can't do that. What I can do is show some things that are relevant to all of the previous films of Star Wars. I can somehow imply cloning. I can bring up the Senate, show Senate hell, bring up the Sith, bring up Vader again, have the sequel trilogy characters involved, show things from the original trilogy, have OT characters come in, have motifs from the OT, have references from the OT, have certain lines from Revenge of the Sith come back in, and it feels like a Star Wars soup that tastes good, but it's just bad for you. That's the only way I can put it. It's just dessert. It feels like dessert. The Last Jedi was a gourmet in a lot of ways, and even the bad parts were good in The Last Jedi, and this movie only makes that film look like a freaking masterpiece. I already love that film. I gotta be honest, I hate to say it, The Rise of Skywalker just is not on the right level of the previous two films, and I just don't think of it as a super strong close to the sequel trilogy. I do think maybe the ideas presented in this film, which were like Sith loyalists, that kind of stuff, the idea that Snoke was created by Palpatine, the fact that Palpatine did have children and the children made Rey and Rey was left for safety in Nachi, this weird looking ghoul kind of guy that killed Rey's parents, that kind of stuff, like all of these things, had they been better planned out. And yeah, I'm gonna go to that route here, and I'm not gonna pretend that the original trilogy was planned out or the prequels were heavily planned out. What I mean is, this film just unfortunately suffers because of circumstances that surrounded it. The death of Carrie Fisher, and just time. People needing to have this done by a certain time, a commitment, a deadline. It just suffered because of it. They should have taken their time, perhaps, to figure out what is the best way to close out this story. I get that The Last Jedi ended in a way that left the door wide open, but figure out how to finish it, I guess. That's all I'm going to say. And I am going to go see this again. I have the tickets and I'm seeing it again Saturday. And, I generally did enjoy my experience in the theater. Musically, phenomenal score, phenomenal stuff, really good. Cinematically, one of the best shot, again, Star Wars films I've ever seen, because everything that Disney puts out is high quality in that regard. Cinematically, yeah, beautiful film. The editing, I have to say, as an editor, it just has the worst editing of any Star Wars film I've ever seen. And that's a bold statement to say. And I think you could qualify that as a hot take. And I don't want to say anybody that disagrees with me is wrong. If you love this movie, awesome. This can be your favorite movie. Don't let me tell you that you're anything for loving this. You're allowed to. I'm gonna be buying this movie when it comes out for sure. I will complete my collection and watch this trilogy again. And who knows, my opinion could change on Saturday. I don't hate the movie. I just don't think it was that strong. I would say like a 6.5 out of 10, 7 out of 10 for me. The Force Awakens and Last Jedi, stronger movies to me. But yeah, ultimately, I did like Kylo Ren turning into Ben Solo. I loved that the redemption did happen. I liked how Leia was somehow obtusely involved in Ben's passage over into the Force after, a person like me who's a Reyloist, a Redemptionist, we got our moment. We really did. I narratively, when we get the Rise of Skywalker novel, I can't wait to read it to see what's going on inside the people's brains, because maybe that'll help me better understand some of the choices in this film and how it links back to the other movie, because like I said, it just doesn't feel like it does a lot of the times. A lot of cosmetic things tie back to the other films, but the narrative just feels like a relentless push to the end, maybe to almost distract us from the fact that there's not really much happening. But again, I have to watch it again. I can't really say. It's hard to say, and it's tough to say. I think ultimately, while I did love the ending of this film, I liked how it ended. I like Rey being up on Tatooine, looking in the sunset. I do wish that the Ben Demption Reylo angle of this sort of went full force into the end of this movie, because yes, I do like that Rey has a new place to live, a new way to reflect upon herself now, rising above her darkness, literally. That was a thing that I figured was going on throughout the whole sequel trilogy anyways, and was an aspect of her character that was at least consistent in that regard in this film. But I do think it was completely pointless now, just even thinking about it. Palpatine was unnecessary, I think, actually. Thinking about it, yeah. I just, like he was cool. That's all I can really say. He was really cool in the intro. Kylo descending into hell was really neat. Kylo talking to Palpatine was neat. Finding out that Snoke was just a bunch of clones and bubbles was really cool. But it was meaningless, kinda. So yeah, I just don't know how to think about it. And I also know that this is how a lot of people felt about Return of the Jedi when it came out. Because, Empire ended up being heralded as this masterpiece of storytelling, and it elevated the Star Wars lore just to such a place, and then it just went back to being basic for Return of the Jedi. And in a lot of ways, this movie, The Rise of Skywalker, mimics that that kind of thing. I've said the sequel trilogy is a JJ sandwich. It's like white bread on the outside with a lot of really fancy meats on the middle, you know? And people think I'm crazy for thinking Rian Johnson's a fancy dude and made a really good movie, but sorry, he did. He really made a fantastic Star Wars film. It's without a doubt the best Star Wars film of the sequel trilogy. So yeah, wrapping this whole thing up, you know, I haven't really covered every detail. I'll do that soon when I can really sit down, write something down, go through all the plots of this film, because there really is a lot going on, and perhaps that's why I feel like I don't know how to know if I really enjoy it or just really feel meh, or, you know, just like a couple things or think a couple things are silly. You know, I definitely really laughed in the cinema. The audience definitely really laughed, but I think overall, like, I'm just being honest with myself, you know, it was a fun movie that unfortunately didn't have the kind of weight that I thought it would have for wrapping up just the entire story of Skywalker. It didn't feel like a conclusion to the story of Skywalker, narratively, really. But I did like, I guess, you know, how Luke was involved and how he helped Rey out of her darkness as she sort of, you know, straight up almost murdered Kylo Ren, and she healed him, and they have healing powers. That was really awesome, you know. And like I said, I loved seeing Kylo Ren turn into rogue Ben Solo at the end and take on the Knights of Ren and go to help his star-crossed lover out. And unfortunately, he died and passed away into the Force and went with his mother. She waited amongst the realm of the living to pass along into the Force with her son. That is something that I find very interesting about this movie, which I can't wait to just, you know, see again and experience it again and see if, you know, maybe just overall if my thoughts of this film change. I do remember coming out of Rogue One thinking it was amazing, and now it's one of my least favorite Disney Star Wars films. And I remember coming out of The Last Jedi thinking it was meh, and now it's probably arguably my favorite Star Wars film. So who knows what's going to happen. I don't want my first impressions of seeing this to necessarily influence how you're going to see it. A lot of you might agree with me. A lot of you might disagree with me, and that's the internet. You know, feel free to leave your comments down below if you have seen the film. And, you know, just take how I feel about this movie with a grain of salt. It didn't do it for me the way that the previous two did. I think it could have been better. I think I will end up making a lot of videos on some ways that this film, you know, given its presentation, could have been structured in a way to make it stronger. Because I think there is something in here that is really good. I just think it just got rushed out the door to hit the deadline, and I think it suffered for it. And it just stinks to say that as a fan. So props to J.J. Abrams for giving his best shot. Props to everybody involved. Straight up, the acting and the energy and all that kind of stuff is really good. Adam Driver was without a doubt the best thing in this film, and that's not to say anybody else wasn't, you know, good at all. But oddly, this sort of turned into the Kylo Ren story, Ben Solo's story, if you really look back on it from here on out, even though it ended with Rey as a Palpatine, but choosing to be better and taking on the name of Skywalker. So, you know, in a way, there is still that idea of hope. But it's just kind of obtuse, and a lot happened, and maybe too much, and maybe just, you know, JJ didn't know where to go. So yeah, leave your comments below if you've seen it or when you do see it. I just can't wait to see what you guys think. I will be seeing it again, and I will be giving a more clearer, detailed, thought out reasoning as to why I think the things I do think. And I will also, you know, be doing more things like, you know, top 5 things about this film that were great, top 5 or worst 5 things that, you know, didn't really work out for me. And what I can't wait to actually do is just look at this in regards to the whole picture of the sequel trilogy and try to find connections that maybe weren't even intended, but ones that I can make for myself as a fan. Because as Star Wars fans, we all do that anyways. We find ways to connect these films. We find diamonds in the roughs. You know, if people can come back now saying that the prequels are works of art and, you know, masterpieces that people just disregarded, it's without a doubt going to happen with these films as well, and people are going to think I'm an idiot for saying what I'm saying right now. So take what I have to say with a grain of salt. Experience the film how you want to experience it, and my words cannot influence how you feel about it. This very well could be everybody else's favorite Star Wars film. It just wasn't mine, and that's perfectly okay. I'm happy it exists, and now I can complete my 9-set series. So, yeah, that's it. That's been enough of me rambling for about 20 minutes into a mic about The Rise of Skywalker. It didn't do it for me in a way I thought it would. It wasn't horrible. It just wasn't good. And I wish it was. And now I'm going to go watch The Mandalorian and pray that Deborah Chow makes an amazing Obi-Wan Kenobi series. So may the Force be with you, and AT AT is signing off.